I would like to thank you all for this amazing opportunity, because it's rare that we can talk about women with women and with men, because I have seen some of them, and we need them. They're very important in this reflection. I see one of the prominent men coming in. um, and we definitely need them. I want to reflect with you and weave my personal experience with the task we have ahead. When you will be in Tehran, and we know it's going to happen soon, you're going to be facing a tremendous challenge, because you are probably the only real organization where women are at the top consistently, with a women face as a leader, but also with women all over the hierarchy. And you will be confronted to the fact that taking power in a country like Iran, which is a major country in the international scene, we're talking about 80 million inhabitants, one of the big countries in the Middle East, not only by its history, but also by its geopolitical importance. It's not a small country. It's not a small challenge. It's not a small responsibility. So whatever you do once you're in power will reflect in the whole world. So the impact that you will have, because you have a leader that is a woman, in a country that has been for 40 years ruled by a misogynistic regime, the impact will be like an atomic bomb in the whole world. So whatever is done in those first months of your coming in the international scene will define most of the next generation of women will be able to do in the world. So we're talking about very serious responsibility. Yesterday, one of the of the speeches, I mean, they were all impressive. I mean, I think that yesterday was an amazing opportunity for us to enrich our the way we see the world and the way we see this endeavor. But yesterday, I was profoundly touched by what General Conway said, because he said that you're going to be confronting the need to have some type of allegiance with the Iranian military. When I was in Colombia, and many years ago, I was in the parliament, and I was seen as a leftist kind of political personality. Leftist in Colombia, because if you see who I am in the European scene, I'm more like in the center. But in Colombia, you know, everything is pushed to the right. So the generals and the military had a very kind of like resistance to whatever I would do or say. And in fact, one of the first acts I did in Congress was to unveil a corrupt deal from the military. So they didn't like me very much. In one meeting, I remember talking with the general in commander of the Columbian forces, and I asked him, when are we going to see women in the military? I mean, we need to open the military to women, like everybody's doing right now. The Americans are doing it. In Israel, it's like normal. I mean, why here in Colombia we don't have women in the military? And his answer was, you're taking all the space. Leave to us something. And of course, it's, it's a joke. But at the same time, this is something we have to reflect on. Because I think that one of the dangers we have as women in this world where we want to be part of the world, but we share it with the man, and we want men to be here. I mean, it's not, we don't want to get in this gender war that we are witnessing. One of the things we need to do is to understand that when we come in, we can create a reaction, and we can, it could be felt like an aggression, because in a way, women, we are not men. We are not part of that circle. And to have the intelligence, to have the emotional skills, to use the right words and the right attitudes and the right decisions in order to make it understood that this is not about taking the place of anyone, but about contributing to the world in cooperation with man. That's a challenge. Now, the other challenge I think you will have is religion. Because of course, you are coming to put an end to a religious government. Again, yesterday, in one conversation I had with one of our Turk colleagues here and friends, she said something that just was, enlightening for me. We were talking about Erdogan and what she felt and the situation. And she said, why do I not have the right to live in a secular country? And then I was thinking, wow, that's so personal. Well, the fact is that when religion is involved, it becomes very personal to women. Because all over the world, and I don't know if you know, but I study theology. I'm a Catholic. I have, I also have a big deal of criticism to my own, kind of faith. But one of the things that we have to be aware of is that this system of, and Maryam, you mentioned, the patriarchy. This is a system, it's a mind frame that we all have it in ourselves. Women and men, it's how we have been formatted, it's how we have been educated, and we have to be conscious that it's something that we have to fight in us and in the others. And when you're going to come and to challenge the transition to a secular government, you will have not only to deal with the problem of the clergy, but of the women and of the men in Iran that are not ready for this change. And this is something that is a challenge. Now, the third challenge that I see is once you are in Iran, you will need to embrace and bring to work this labor force that is the women force, half of the country, that has been totally put aside. So it's an amazing opportunity. But I want to just share with you something that I lived when I was as a hostage in Colombia. I was a hostage in the hands of a communist guerrilla formed mainly by Colombian peasants. And even though they thought they were avant-garde and all of this, they were absolutely machists. In their rank, this was an army. 1/3 of this army were women. And as a hostage, I could observe how the relationship between men and women was being dealt with, which is so different from what I see here in the Mujahideens I mean, by the way, this is, but I will conclude with that later. But coming back to Colombia, um, for me, it was a cultural shock to be in an organization where, as a hostage, I was a double enemy to these guys. Not only because I was a politician, not only because I was French and Colombian. I saw that you put my Colombian flag on my name today, which is great. Sometimes I have the French one, but it was good because today I thought I'm going to talk as the Colombian. So they thought I was kind of a traitor because I had this double nationality, and then I was a woman. And I was a woman among other hostages that were all men. I had the worst treatment of all of my peers. And when I try to rationalize what happened as a hostage and why they were so hard with me, I came to the conclusion that they were afraid that because I was a woman, I could manipulate them. We bear, as women, this kind of strange relationship with man, and we have to be aware and we have to be very careful, because knowing that we are frail, they think that we use our emotions to balance physical disadvantage with moral manipulation. So this is something that cost me a lot. But on the other side, what I was seeing on the way women in the FARC were behaving is, and I was absolutely in admiration, because these women, young girls, they would do exactly the same work, physical work, as the men. There was no, in a way it was funny because the FARC communists would say gender equality. So gender equality would mean that they would do exactly the same type of physical work. So you would see them opening trenches, cutting trees. They would march in the jungle with these backpacks filled with ammunition. And I would always ask them, do you have less ammunition than the guys? And they would laugh and they would say, no, we have the same, because if we are confronted to an army, we want to have our own ammunition and be able to confront the enemy. But once the military aspect of the life of these women was over in the day, something very curious happened, is that mentally they would switch, and the men would switch too. And at night, there were women as submissive as any other women in the world in a subdeveloped country. This is to say that one of the challenges we need to face is how to give confidence to women on their capacity to be different as men, but as good as men in any of the levels of responsibility. I say this because you are an exception. This organization is an exception. I mean, I have never seen an organization that combines military discipline with a living philosophy, with a political aim to go and take power and put an end to a dictatorship that one of the characteristics of this dictatorship, other than cruelty, torture, it's a misogynistic regime. So my belief is, and Maryam knows that through her, you have achieved something that is very unusual. If I look at what women in politics do today, and some of you will understand what I'm saying, in the Western world, and I can say that that was one of the things that made me think about what I'm saying in Colombia, is that in order to get to power, in order to climb the ladder, to be a political leader, we women tend to become like men. In our behavior, in things that are apparent, like the way we dress, or how we cut our hair, or the way we talk, but also in the type of relationship we build with others. Now, why do I say that it's a unique example, that the one we have through Maryam? Because she's the epitome of femininity. I mean, this is a woman that hasn't lost her femininity, and it's her femininity that gives her what she is in strength, in patience, in wisdom, all attributes that we admire in man, but we can also admire through her. And that So we have to reflect also inside of us as women in how we can empower the force of change in ourselves, not to be a clone of what men are. We love them like they are. We love them as men. But they need to have the other side of humanity, which is the feminine side. That's what we need to balance who we are as humans. So this is the challenge that I see for you, for all of you. And I'm humbled by what you have achieved. And I'm in admiration. And I'm in gratitude for all the things I have learned so far by being just with you in these last years. Thank you so much.